Long before the ring stirred in the quiet fields of the Shire, the North carried a fading memory of kings. The line of Isildur survived in secret, scattered among wandering folk who guarded lonely borders under failing stars. Their strength dimmed through centuries of war and sorrow, yet a single thread of hope remained. When Arathorn fell to orc arrows, that thread was carried through night and storm, guarded by weathered hands. In that moment, the fortunes of Middle-earth narrowed upon a child who had no understanding of the weight he carried. The valley of Rivendell welcomed the child with a quiet peace that rested upon its waterfalls and ancient halls. Elrond received him with solemn understanding, for he had watched the rise and fall of kingdoms beyond count. Gilraen, the boy's mother, walked beside her child with steady grief, trusting the wisdom of the Eldar to shield him from enemies who hunted the last heir of the North. None who saw him knew how far his story would reach. Elrond named the child Estel, a name chosen to protect his lineage and to mark the hope he represented. Under that name, the boy roamed Rivendell's gardens and libraries, learning songs older than mortal kingdoms. He studied the histories of fallen realms and listened to tales told by Glorfindel, who remembered battles against Balrogs. The child grew among the wise, unaware that every lesson prepared him for storms that waited beyond the valley. The Eldar taught Estel with patience that stretched like the years they had lived. He learned the shaping of words, the craft of healing, the discipline of sword and bow, and the deeper understanding of the struggles between light and shadow. Although he did not know the reason for such guidance, he sensed that Rivendell watched him with special care. A purpose waited on the horizon of his life, though its shape had not yet been revealed. When Estel reached his 20th year, Elrond called him into a quiet chamber where a slender beam of sunlight touched an old wooden table. Upon that table lay the shards of Narsil. Elrond's voice carried the calm of long ages as he revealed the truth that had been hidden since Estel's cradle. The young man was Aragorn, son of Arathorn, heir of Isildur and rightful chieftain of the Dunedain. The revelation changed the rhythm of his thoughts, for the quiet years had ended. Elrond placed the ring of Barahir in Aragorn's hand, and the relic of the First Age shone with a memory of lost kingdoms. Aragorn felt the gravity of his lineage rise before him. He saw the long struggle of his people, the ruin of Arnor, and the burden that the passing years had carved upon the Dunedain. The line of kings had become a dwindling remnant, and Aragorn understood that the future of that line rested upon him alone. Aragorn wandered the gardens in search of quiet thought, yet there he saw Arwen again, newly returned from Lorien. The twilight rested upon her hair like starlight upon water. She greeted him with gentle warmth, and in her presence the weight of his lineage felt both heavier and more beautiful. The sound of her voice stirred dreams older than the world of men, and Aragorn knew his heart had crossed a threshold from which he could not turn back. Gilraen looked upon her son with pride mixed with sorrow. She had watched the world narrow around her family, and she understood the cost of the path ahead. She urged Aragorn to guard his heart with patience, for the lives of men moved swiftly while the years of the Eldar flowed with deeper rhythm. Her words carried the ache of long hardship, and Aragorn felt the fragility of the choices before him. Aragorn left the comfort of Rivendell and took his place among the Dunedain. The wild lands became his hall and hearth. He guarded ruined watchtowers, walked forgotten roads, and guided wandering folk who feared the rising dark. Orcs crept through hidden passes, and strangers from the east tested the vigilance of the north. Each step shaped the young chieftain into the ranger he was destined to become. The rangers moved like shadows between the borders of danger, and Aragorn walked at their forefront. He learned the secrets of the land, the signs of coming storms, and the traces of evil that shifted across the north. Those who glimpsed him spoke of a wanderer who appeared in hours of need, then vanished with the next dawn. The name Strider slowly grew, carried by whispers that followed him from village to village. Aragorn returned often to Rivendell. Elrond watched his growth with a calm pride, knowing the young ranger moved toward a future that would test all strengths he had gained. They spoke of rising shadows and the movements of Sauron's servants. Aragorn listened with patience, for each word revealed more of the world's peril. He knew his journeys must expand far beyond the north. Aragorn travelled south and entered the service of King Thengel of Rohan. The Mark valued courage more than lineage, and the young ranger proved himself in skirmishes along the plains. He rode under wide skies where the wind carried the songs of the horse lords. Although he kept his true name hidden, his deeds earned respect that followed him across the years. Crossing the White Mountains, Aragorn arrived in Gondor and took the name Thorongil, the Eagle of the Star. He entered the service of Steward Ecthelion and fought in Ithilien, where shadow lengthened upon the borders. His counsel strengthened Gondor's defences, and his presence renewed the hearts of weary soldiers who saw in him a strength that felt older than the city's white stones. Denethor, son of the steward, studied Thorongil with a gaze sharpened by pride and foresight. He sensed a history concealed beneath the ranger's simple bearing, yet he could find no fault in his loyalty. Their unspoken tension lingered like an unresolved chord. Aragorn understood the cause, for fate had woven their lives into a pattern that neither man could avoid. Thorongil led a daring assault against the corsairs of Umbar. Under starlight, he guided Gondor's warriors into the enemy's harbour and struck with swift precision. Flames rose from the corsair ships, and their power broke upon the tide. Gondor rejoiced in victory, yet Thorongil refused celebration. The sea wind called him onward, for his road travelled far beyond the glory of that night. Aragorn slipped from Gondor without announcement. He left only a message to Ecthelion, promising to return when the need of Gondor grew deepest. Soldiers spoke of the mysterious captain who arrived from nowhere, won honour greater than many lords, and walked into the horizon without seeking reward. His legend lingered, even as he moved beyond the knowledge of men. Aragorn wandered into distant lands where few of the free peoples had walked for countless years. He crossed deserts under burning skies, journeyed among peoples whose customs differed from any he had known, and observed the shadows that stretched from distant fortresses. Each road revealed the breadth of Sauron's influence and the scale of the darkness gathering for the age to come. After long years, Aragorn returned to the north. He resumed his role among the Dunedain with greater wisdom and deeper resolve. He guarded the borders of Bree and the Shire, protected wandering folk, and confronted the creatures that crept from forgotten places. He had walked among kings, yet he chose the quiet hardships of the wild for the sake of those who lived in peace. Aragorn came to Lorien and stood among the golden leaves of the Malorn forest. There he saw Arwen once more, and the long years of their separation melted into stillness. Lorien's timeless beauty held their voices within gentle wind and silver rivers. Their bond deepened in that sacred place, and Aragorn felt the path of his heart intertwine with a destiny that carried both joy and sorrow. Arwen pledged her love to Aragorn with quiet resolve. She chose a mortal life for his sake, setting aside the immortal destiny that belonged to her people. Her choice echoed the ancient story of Luthien, and its significance rested heavily upon them both. Aragorn understood the depth of her gift, and the promise they shared bound their futures with a strength beyond words. Aragorn carried the shards of Narsil as a silent companion through all his wanderings. The blade reflected the broken past of his people and the task waiting upon him. He knew the time for reforging had not yet come, yet he felt the moment draw nearer with each troubling rumour from the east. The sword represented a pledge that would soon demand fulfilment. Elrond entrusted Aragorn with the safety of the Shire. Though the hobbits lived far from the world's struggles, danger crept closer to their borders each year. Aragorn watched from distant ridges, guarded lonely roads, and drove away threats that would have passed unnoticed. The peaceful land remained unaware that a wandering ranger shielded them from gathering storms. Gandalf saw Aragorn with urgent tidings. Gollum had left his hiding places and scoured the land with a hunger that unsettled every trail he touched. Aragorn pursued him across mountains and marsh, following signs that only a ranger could perceive. The hunt lasted long months, testing endurance and will. When Aragorn at last captured the creature near the Anduin, he sensed the importance of this hard-won victory. The years that followed carried a growing sense of unease. Strange figures moved along forgotten borders, and whispers of terror reached even the quiet villages of the north. Aragorn saw the deepening shadow in every road he walked. Though the world remained unaware, a new age approached with steady steps. Aragorn felt the call of his destiny draw closer with each passing season. Aragorn returned to his mother in her final days. Gilraen looked upon him with quiet pride, for she had carried sorrow through many years, yet never faltered in her hope for him. She spoke softly, blessing the path he would soon walk. When she passed, Aragorn felt the weight of loss settle deeply, yet her strength lived on within him. The borders of the north grew restless. Black riders were seen upon distant hills, and dark winds whispered of ancient enemies stirring once more. Aragorn sensed that peace stood on a fragile edge. The ranger who had walked unnoticed for so long prepared himself for the task that waited just beyond the horizon. Gandalf came to Aragorn with news that shifted the balance of the age. The One Ring had surfaced in the quiet fields of the Shire, borne by a hobbit who had unknowingly stepped into a tale older than his land. Aragorn listened with solemn resolve. The hidden years were nearing their end, and the true weight of his lineage would soon be tested. Aragorn travelled to Bree and took a seat in a dim corner of the prancing pony. Shadows flickered across the walls as travellers murmured stories of distant troubles. Aragorn waited with calm vigilance, for he knew the hobbits would arrive, and he sensed the danger that followed them. Each moment felt like the tightening of a bowstring. When the hobbits encountered Strider in the inn's quiet gloom, they saw only a weathered wanderer wrapped in a worn cloak. Yet, beneath that simple guise stood the heir of forgotten kings who had walked through hardship for many years. His voice carried steady reassurance, and the path he offered would guide them through the first darkness of their long journey. Thus ended the hidden years of Aragorn, chieftain of the Dunedain, wanderer of many realms and guardian of forgotten borders. Every hardship he faced, every distant road he walked, and every sorrow he carried shaped the heart that Middle-earth would soon call upon. The child who entered Rivendell under a name of secrecy stepped into the rising storm with purpose, carved by long patience. His journey as Strider prepared him for the crown he never sought, and from these hidden years emerged the king who would lead the Fourth Age into dawn.
Hey guys, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more great stories. Cheers.